creation. We've seen creation as a theme in the entire Bhagavatam, and the idea being that all of creation is nothing but Him. And so all that we experience is nothing but Him. And so this entire city, now that it's created, it was time for Balram and Krishna to marry. So of course, Balram is older, so Balram marries Revati. And then Krishna, well, he marries quite a few, as we very well know. In the Bhagavatam, Lakshmi ji has come as Rukmini. It's not in the Bhagavatam, but some Kathakars say after the whole incident of Sita ji, she has decided that never again. And when Krishna was taking avatar, Lakshmi ji said, I am going to be wedded to you and stay wedded to you, and I'm not leaving the palace. Of course, that's not in the Bhagavatam. So Rukmini's brother is Rukmi. Sometimes parents like to rhyme their names. And he didn't like Krishna. So every time Rukmini spoke about wanting to marry Krishna, he totally said, no, that's not happening. And he was very fond of Shishupal. So remember Jay and Vijay from heaven, and they got cursed to come down on earth. So they came down as Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha. That's already done. And then they came as Kumbhakarna and Ravana, and then that's already done. And then they came as Shishupal and Dandavakra. And their stories are not as big as Kamsa's. Maybe this was already the third birth and, didn't need such a big drama this time. But Shishupal had this incredible hatred for Krishna. In fact, he thought Krishna was pretending to be him. There's another king also who actually wrote Krishna a letter demanding that he stop pretending to be Krishna because he's the actual Krishna, and he stuck cardboard hands to his body to say he's the real Krishna. How can you be the real Krishna if you stick cardboard hands to yourself? And then still, incredible how delusion works. Like to yourself put extra hands to show and then think you the real original one? But even Shishupal had this delusion. And so nurtured this jealousy, antagonism for Krishna the whole time. And Rukmi was very fond of Shishupal. And so he decided, Rukmini will marry Shishupal. It's the best match for her. Because, we all see the world so differently. And Rukmini had already decided, no. There is no way I am marrying anyone other than Krishna, or I am not marrying, or I am not living. And so she has been hearing the stories of Krishna from she was very, very young, from all the people around in the palace, and from especially one particular Brahmana who used to come and teach her the scriptures. And so she writes a letter to Krishna and gives it to this Brahmana to go and give it to Krishna. And the letter says, oh, I didn't bring glasses. Okay, let's try. You're going to give me yours? It won't work. Oh, Shyamasundar, I have heard from people about your qualities, your good looks, beauty, sweetness, character, and nature. When a person hears about your qualities, the qualities enter the heart through the passage of the ears. And then all physical discomforts are quietened. I know that to anyone who has eyes, the very sight of your form bestows dharma, artha, kama, moksha. These are the four principal purusharthas for humans. A glimpse of your sarvatra and Paramatvarta is everything else. And is, sorry. That is why my mind enters shamelessly into you. If I cannot marry you in this birth, I will be reborn 100 times, but I will definitely marry you, because I have presented my soul to you. Now, you must ensure that this happens. And then she gives the details of where she'll be, when she'll be, and how he is to come and kidnap her. All of this in this letter. It doesn't sound like a love letter, right? She's talking about Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, and she's talking about, because it's Lakshmi ji, and it's not an ordinary love letter. But she has said everything that the Bhagavatam says. My love for you has grown by listening to your glories. And you enter our heart through our ears. And then remove all sorrow and suffering. And so when Krishna gets the letter, he thinks, her wedding's meant to be like that night or the next day. It's not she hasn't given him much span of time to be able to go. And so he takes the Brahmana, he jumps onto his chariot and he leaves. And Balram's still thinking, why? Where he's going? Because he's gone into enemy territory. Like Shishupal doesn't like him, Rukmi doesn't like him. Rukmini loves him. Rukmi is the brother. And so then he works out where Krishna is going, and so Balram, being a really good brother, gathers the army and follows. Because a war is going to happen now, because he's going to steal Rukmini. And when Krishna enters the city, then, he grabs everyone's attention the minute he's there. And so Chinese whispers, he's here, Krishna's come. I thought Rukmi didn't like him. I didn't know he was invited. Did Rukmi invite Krishna just to insult him? Or maybe Rukmini invited Krishna because Rukmini wants Krishna. Gossip. And so all the kings now, including Shishupal and Rukmini, knows that Krishna's here. And so they call the army and they line the streets with soldiers, so that Krishna can't do anything because, he has a reputation already. And Rukmini goes to the mandir, prays to Goddess, please let me marry Krishna and only Krishna, please, please, please. And when she's walking down the steps of the mandir, Krishna has driven the chariot, perfect timing. She reaches the last step of the mandir. His chariot reaches in front. He puts his hand down. She grabs his hand. He pulls her up, and they ride off into the sunset. Rukmi and the whole army are standing there watching this happening. And immediately he screams, "Follow them!" And so this whole army, he is now following Krishna's chariot with Rukmini in the chariot. But Rukmini is very happy to be in the chariot, but the army is following. And just as they reach outside their city gates, Balram's army is waiting for Rukmi and the army. And so a huge battle until finally, Balram tells Rukmi, but she got onto the chariot. Why are you waging a war with us? If she didn't want to get onto the chariot, he wouldn't have taken her. And so he has to accept. And when he goes back to Dwarka, Krishna calls all the parents for blessing, he calls all the family, he calls all the priests, and they do a big, beautiful, proper wedding. And they celebrate. And Rukmini, as we know, pretty much after that, rules Dwarka. And Krishna does. And the ministers are also there to rule. Like Krishna has to keep going to Hastinapur to help out the Pandavas. For months together he leaves. And Rukmini's been as well educated in running and administrative and diplomacy and in all of that, that she is able to rule when he is not there. And then there is this incident where there is a jewel. What's it called? You're going to tell me. What's it called? Shamantaka. Correct. It was gifted to Sarajit because he was a great devotee of Surya Devata, and this jewel produced 750 kilos of gold every day. Quite a valuable jewel to have. And so Krishna goes to his house and says, it's very dangerous for you to keep this jewel in your house. You should give it to the king. Now he's not the king. He's telling him to give it to Ugrasena. Yeah? Ugrasena is the king. Yeah? Although Krishna helps with ruling because he pledged loyalty, Ugrasena is his grandfather. But Satyajit doesn't want to give it. He wants to keep it for himself. Right? And it's going to get a lot of attention, this jewel, if it produces gold every single day. So one day he gives it to his brother, and his brother goes out into the forest to hunt or to ride, or not sure what he's doing in the forest, but he gets attacked by a lion, and the lion kills him, and the jewel's on him, and then Jambavan, who's a bear, is walking in the forest and sees something shiny and takes the jewel and puts it in his cave. Jambavan takes it? Yeah. And back in Dwarka, everyone accuses Krishna of stealing it. And this is very specifically mentioned. What? Like when the world gossips about you, they gossiped about Krishna also. And when you say it wasn't even my fault, I didn't do anything wrong, Krishna didn't do anything wrong. The lion killed the brother, and then Jambavan came and took the jewel into some cave, and Krishna doesn't even know the brother took the jewel into the forest, doesn't know where the jewel is, but everyone says Krishna stole this stone. And so to clear his name, he goes in search of this stone. And in the process, he has to kill one or two kings. But finally, he goes to Jambavan, and this is very cute, because Jambavan loves Ramchandraji. Right? Jambavan was there when Ramayana happened. He's Brahmaji. Actually, he came into form when Bali and Vamana avatar, and his foot, and then remember he did the Pradakshina 3 times, and then he's been there since then. Then he was there during Ramayana, and during Ramayana he kept complaining, I'm so old when I was young, and now he's still alive. So now he's pretty much chilling in this cave of his. And so when Krishna walks in, he thinks, who are you? And he attacks Krishna. And then Krishna would take the form of Ram. And Jambavan would do Shashtang Namaskar. And then he'd change to Krishna. And then, who are you? And he'd attack. And this continued for some time. Krishna was just playing with him. Until finally he shows that he is both Krishna and he is both Ram. And then Jambavan surrenders and says, of course the jewel's yours, and not only the jewel, please marry my daughter, Jambavati. And so Krishna goes back and says, here's the jewel, and proof that it was with Jambavan because I have brought another bride. And gives the jewel back to Surajit. He loses it one more time, huh? And again they accuse Krishna of stealing it. And so this time he also gets it back. And it's kept with Akrura. This time it has to be, it was Akrura who had it the whole time, but they had thought it was Krishna that stole it. He's constantly having to prove himself. And so when Bhagwan plays these leelas, so much of it will be like our lives. But also constantly living absolute ideal. And so there's this incident, so he's married now, and then after it gets stolen again and he's proven his innocence for the second time, Surajit profusely apologizes for accusing him and gives his daughter, Satyabhama, to Sri Krishna. And then after that he marries Kalandi, Mitra, Satya, Bhadra, and Lakshmana. I think I'm saying the names right. And one of them also, it was very similar to, because when they were talking in that Yagnashala and Draupadi asked, how did we meet? Lakshmana is the one that says, her father had a competition and Krishna had to shoot an object while being blindfolded. And then Draupadi thinks, oh, she thought Arjuna was the best and there was no one better than Arjuna, and only Arjuna was so cool to be able to accomplish all these feats with archery. And then now she's listening to the story of Krishna is as proficient or probably more because it's Krishna. And so all these wives are there. And then Narakasama's story comes as well. If time permits, we'll do it, but I don't think so. And then there's this section in the Bhagavatam where Narad Ji comes to visit Dwarka, and he goes, and so there wasn't one Krishna. There was many, many Krishnas. Each wife had their own Krishna. And how do we know this? Because when Narad Muni visits Dwarka, he goes into Rukmani's palace, and Krishna is sitting in the puja room offering archana. He's doing proper puja. And so Naradji says, doesn't want to disturb. Bhagwan's doing his puja. He goes to Satyabhama's palace. And Krishna is sitting in the puja room doing japa. And then, everything, the maids are running around, the clothes are coming, breakfast is being served, the children are crying. All that is also happening. And Krishna is sitting in the puja room doing his japa. Then he goes to Jambavati's palace. And Krishna is just finishing doing his sandhya. And so he's still washing all the vessels from having done his sandhya. And there too, Jambavati is still getting dressed, combing her hair, putting her jewelry. And so every palace he goes, there's a Krishna. And because he's come early in the morning, every single Krishna is doing puja, japa, sandhya, or some kind of worship. And why would Bhagwan have to do worship? And so it's written very, very clearly in the Bhagavad Gita. Whatever great people do, we follow. Even though we're not great, if they don't do something, we use it as an excuse not to do it. And so to set that example, every single morning, if you go in each palace. So it tells us one thing, that he lives everything that he prescribes, but two, this incident also shows us there's so many Krishnas. In each palace there's their own Krishna. Each queen had their own Krishna. And also every time Brahmanas visit, like when Sudama visits, the respect he shows and the love he shows and the adherence to what is tradition, which is followed. We see this play out again and again in the Bhagavatam. And Narad Muni visits very often. When Krishna is in Dwarka, he visits very often. In fact, they have a child, Pradyum, and then they have a grandchild, Anirudh. And at one point, Narad Muni comes and says, "You've got so many kids and so many grandkids, you don't even know where they are, do you? Because Anirudh's been kidnapped for the last 4 months and none of you seem to have noticed." And Krishna's like, "Yeah, I haven't seen him around." And so it's like literally Narad Muni coming to say, "This Asura has come and he has done this. This Asura has come and he has done this." Narad Muni comes very often to Dwarka to report all the happenings in Dwarka. Not outside happenings. Dwarka happenings are being reported to Krishna by Narad Muni on a regular basis. Because really there's a lot of palaces and a lot of queens and a lot of children. But Krishna actually always knows at any given point in time what is happening. And most of the time when they were kidnapped, some Leela was happening around that. And so like this, so many queens are born. And then King Parikshit is listening to all of this, and it goes into the story of the Mahabharata. It goes into the story of Yudhishthira doing the yajna, and then Krishna being invited, and the palace that they built that is filled with illusions, and the start of the war of the Mahabharata is also all explained here. And as Shukdev Maharaj is talking about that, King Parikshit stops him and says, "No, wait. I want to hear more about Krishna." And actually that's when the story of Sudama is told. And the story of how Arjuna and Subhadra met is told. Because Krishna played a very huge part in them meeting. So here too, Subhadra is Balram and Krishna's sister. And Balram wanted to marry her to Duryodhana because Duryodhana was Balram's student. And so as a guru, he had great love for his student. But Subhadra didn't want to. But he's the older brother, so she didn't say anything. And Vasudev and Devaki ji also didn't want. And so when Arjuna came and saw Subhadra and got completely besotted, and Krishna thinks, yeah, we'll help them get married. And then, oh my gosh, so much drama. Like if you thought Rukmini and Krishna eloping was drama, it was just so all short. One love letter, he came, she got into the chariot, all over. This was months. Arjuna pretended to be an ascetic, and then he goes and then they invite him home for Bhiksha, and he's pretending to be an ascetic, and he goes to Bhiksha and he's looking at Subhadra and she's thinking, why is he looking at me like that? And then Krishna is whispering, no, that's Arjuna, because then and the way she recognizes it is Arjuna, then before Krishna tells her, is Arjuna is known as Sarva Sakna, the ambidextrous. What's the name? Savyasachi, right? Means he can use both hands equally well. And so when he pulled the arrow with his right hand, doesn't matter, it created a scratch, because he would pull them so fast. Right? When he was in battle, he would pull arrow after arrow so fast that every time he pulled the arrow out of his quiver, it would leave this scratch. And when he used his left hand, because in the situation, he'd pull one this side, and so his back had this scar, which was a X, and it was from the repeated shooting and pulling of the arrows. And so Subhadra, when serving him his bhiksha, notices this on his back and thinks, Arjuna is famous for this scar. Because it's a scar, right? Because every time it's a scratch. And then she looks at Krishna, and Krishna is smiling and nodding. And so they have this hidden romance under Balram's nose. where Balram is telling Arjuna, take her into the garden for a walk. Because he's thinking this is some sannyasi. But then Arjuna's not pretending with Subhadra that he's a sannyasi. She knows exactly who he is, just from Balram. And so the whole monsoon season, this goes on, this romance going on under Balram's nose. And then when monsoon season is over and they can leave, Balram, Adajata. Arjuna, because Krishna has already done this and it worked, got into a chariot, goes to the mandir where Subhadra has gone to the mandir, and then rides off with her. And Balram's furious. And Balram wanted to be the older brother, but actually Krishna still made all the decisions. Every single time, Krishna still made all the decisions. And of course, this is King Parikshit's grandmother and grandfather. And so, of course, he wanted to know this particular story. And Shukdev Maharaj talks about that affection that Krishna would have with Subhadra and with Arjuna, and then even more with Abhimanyu. And the whole time, Parikshit is listening. And sometimes when we listen, we just automatically identify with the person in the story. And so I remember someone describing to me the way Gurudev used to hug. You would think hug's a hug, right? No. So apparently Gurudev would first put his hand out and then roll you in to the hug. And he was describing it with, like remembering how wonderful it felt. And then Gurudev was tall. Gurudev was 6'2". And he had broad shoulders. And so then inside that hug, you'd just be so secure, safe. You're just so wrapped, like skinny people, then you're not wrapped in the hug. But if somebody's like, and then you're just inside that hug. And then you can feel it, right? As you're listening to it, you can feel it. And Parikshit's listening to how much Krishna loved Arjuna, Subhadra, Abhimanyu. How much Krishna loved him, even as this unborn baby in his mother's womb. And he stops thinking about anything else. Only that, how much they loved Krishna, how much Krishna loved them, and he gets lost in it. He gets lost in that thought of love. And lost in that thought of love, he already detaches from his physical body. And he's experiencing that joy. And Shukdev Maharaj, of course, who is such a great evolved being, can recognize this. And he keeps talking because not only King Parikshit is there, there's hundreds of people that have gathered to listen to this Bhagavad Gita from Shukdev Maharaj. And all of their minds have become so still and so cleansed and so filled with Krishna's presence. And at that point, Taksha, the snake, comes through all those hundreds of people that are sitting. because the curse has to come true. Even at that point, maybe he didn't want to bite, because the satsang was already so incredibly beautiful. But fulfilling the words of a devotee is also worshipping Bhagavan only. And so he played his part and he bit. And Parikshit's body died. That Parikshit who got darshan in the womb before he even came out into the world gets darshan before he leaves this world. And absorbed in that, his life was so incredibly fulfilled. This human birth is fulfilled when we turn our minds and hearts to Bhagavan. And so the Bhagavatam concludes not only with this story, because even though Parikshit is left, so many Santa Mahatmas sitting and listening, so many other bhaktas are present, and so Shukdev Maharaj warns that even though we see Bhagavan's glories and we feel his grace and love, Maya is very, very powerful. And so he narrates the story of Markandeya Rishi, who was meditating and lost in the bliss of divinity. And then Bhagavan appears and says, I'm so pleased with you, I'll grant you any boon you ask. And Markandeya Rishi said, all these jivas keep talking about Maya being so difficult. Bhagavan, can you show me Maya? Every other bhakta is begging Bhagavan, take me out of this Maya. And Markandeya Rishi, so blessed, doesn't know what Maya is. He's not even touched by it. And Bhagavan thinks this is a very amusing request that his bhakta is asking for. And so he smiles. And it starts raining and raining and raining and raining. And in few seconds already there's this humongous flood. And there's only water, there's no land, and there's water and there's water and there's water everywhere. And Markandeya Rishi is just seeing these huge waves and wind and everything, and he's literally almost floating over the ocean until he sees this little baby lying on the leaf of a, what tree is it? Peepal tree. And the baby is sucking his thumb. It's so cute this adorable baby is that Markandeya Rishi goes closer to look, and the baby breathes in. And he goes inside the nose, inside the baby, and there's galaxies and galaxies and galaxies. And then the baby breathes out. And there's water and waves and water and rain and wind, and there's the storm. And then he's sitting in his ashram. Maya. We experience it as though it's real, but it's not. And all of it is inside outside Krishna. So how to stay safe from it? Want Him and Him alone. If our minds and hearts are filled with Krishna, there can be no sorrow. If we forget Him, Maya, waiting, will catch. If we hold on to Him, He uses His Maya to bring us closer. If we don't hold on to Him, Maya is infinite and we can be infinitely lost. But if we've held on to Him even once, He'll pull us back. This Bhagavad Mahapuran is His grace and His grace alone that we could do these 7 days. His grace, what is spoken, and His grace, what y'all heard, may not have been the same. King Parikshit lived a noble life, and when he needed satsang, it came to him. Gurus appeared in front of him. This is true not just for King Parikshit. When you need him, he will appear in whichever way you need him to appear. And this is his promise, and as we've seen in so many stories of his promise is, Na me bhakta pranashyati. My devotees can only ever be lifted, never destroyed. And so we invoke His grace and blessings, that we are able to keep our attention on Him. May we desire Him more and more and more until the yearning for Him purifies us from everything else. That's our gratitude to all the gurus who kept this knowledge alive so that we can enjoy it today. My gratitude to Swami Chinmaya who created this ashram and this format of yagnas and satsang and sadhanas that give me an opportunity to reflect on these beautiful scriptures. My salutations to Swami Swarupananda, from whom I heard this Bhagavatam more often than anyone else, who really made Krishna come alive in my heart. My salutations to Swami Tejamayananda, who nurtured that devotion so that I want more of it. And my gratitude to all of you for sharing this week with me. in being such inspired faces to reflect the wisdom of the Bhagavatam with. Om Tat Sat. Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramaya, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschit Dukhabhag Bhavet, Asato Ma Satkamaya, Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityurma Amritam Gamaya. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari